so much better at it than I am.
I thought we were going to do the bumping mics thing. Have you seen Bumping Mics with David Tell and Jeff Ross?
I have not.
No, if you're into stand-up comedy, well worth a watch. If you go to Netflix, it's a 3-episode thing that they did where they basically got up and they kind of just winged a stand-up / roast set for Netflix.
Jeff Ross, I always see in he manages to be in the roast of everyone.
He is the roast. He's like he has become the roast guy.
Yeah, he's always on the panel, and he's always everyone's just like, "Oh Christ, you're just too easy."
Yeah,
you're just too easy to roast.
Yeah.
And frankly, I've never seen him roast anyone. It's just always him getting absolutely flamed.
Jeff Ross himself.
Yeah, I've not actually seen him roast anyone.
Oh no!
But I've seen everyone roast him.
Yeah, so he back when Comedy Central was doing celebrity roast and stuff, he got sort of so good at it. I've mostly
seen him on the Alec Baldwin one.
Yeah. That was There's what was the other one they did? The Donald Trump one as well was pretty brutal.
Yeah, I wouldn't watch
and that was all obviously,
pre-president. Yeah, you can't put the president on the stage and roast him.
It's funny because he's been this weird guy that moves through pop culture all these years.
Jeff Ross or Donald Trump?
Donald Trump.
Right, yeah.
Moved through all these different annals of pop culture and somehow managed to leave all of that behind him to become the president. But he's been in some real weird shit.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Ironically, post-presidency, people like Barack Obama could probably take a roasting in good humor.
Yeah.
A good-natured human can. And I put it to you that even probably George W. would take a roasting better than Donald Trump would post-presidency.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
How bad do you have to be as a president and a human being where you look at George W. and go, oh, it was a simpler time?
Yeah.
Because he was a piece of shit.
Yeah.
He was terrible.
Yeah, and it was
a warmonger at best.
Yeah.
And then you look 2 presidents back and you're like, you know what, he wasn't so bad.
Yep. Yeah.
And I look back at John Howard in Australia now and I'm like, oh, not so bad. He seems like a reasonable guy now.
Things definitely, with hindsight, not even hindsight, but the things that come to replace them really do shine a different light on things, don't they?
Yeah.
Far out. And Barack Obama did the at the Correspondents' Dinner as well, did the anger translator thing with Michael Keegan Key from Key and Peele. And the fact they did that sketch and then they got a call from Obama's team to be like, hey, we want you for this. And he's like, are you... Wait, am I being punked?
Legit?
What the
legit?
hell?
Yeah,
and the fact that they went and did a practice and he was saying that when they were practicing, that Obama was giving him notes and stuff. So he expected to go in there and have them cut the guts out of all his jokes and it'd all be really homogenized.
Added to rather than
and Barack
subtracted.
was just he's like, I like that, but I reckon
hit this word.
Yeah. This will make it hit harder. And, didn't act like he knew better, but was giving him permission to go
roast me a little bit harder. Yeah, go harder on that particular thing.
Yeah.
I'm good with it.
Yeah.
See, that's a good-natured human.
Yeah. And he also, from the performance point side of things, he wanted it to kill.
Yeah.
He was like, you don't get bloody half a Key and Peele in to just fuck it up.
Yeah. Oh, man. That was a better time.
Yeah.
That was a far better time.
Definitely. But yeah, Bumping Mics. Go check out Bumping Mics. David Tell, one of the best stand-up comedians of all time, Jeff Ross. They get up there and they basically just trade off telling jokes and picking off people in the audience and stuff. And every time they make a good joke, they bump mics together. And that's sort of become the gimmick. So
I really like picking out, you can see they're either ticks or they're things that a comedian does, and I love seeing them. So, for instance, when Dave Chappelle cracks himself up, hits his leg with the mic. Yes. Oh, man, I love it when he does that.
Yeah.
Because that just makes me laugh even harder.
That's one of my favorites.
Lost it. Yeah. He has absolutely lost it if he's done that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I did. I went on a bender when he brought out the 2 Netflix specials in a row that he brought out.
Yep.
I went on a bender and went back through his whole back catalogue in like a week and did all of them.
The one that he
And
does in San
really sticks out.
Francisco years ago. Can't remember the name of it now. That I think I rate that as probably my favorite.
Was that like Killing Me Softly?
It's For What It's Worth.
Okay, yeah.
Is For What It's Worth. It's that one is the one where he talks about like the guy jerking off on the bus.
Yeah.
And the monkeys and like.
Now he tested my knowledge because I did do the binge, but I feel like I ingested so much
in the one
that I barely can remember the jokes. I'll have to go back and do it again.
There's the one where it starts off where he's like, people think that AIDS came from monkeys.
Yes,
and he's like,
yeah.
And he's like, we don't know this. It's like, people don't fuck monkeys and people. It's like, once you fuck monkeys, that's a firm decision. You know, like you're in the monkey fucking game.
Yeah,
like,
you're out of the people game.
Yeah,
for
exactly.
Sure.
He's like, you're not going to call up Charlene on a Tuesday.
Do we have to change the name of this podcast to like a tune, a flick, and a stand-up? Because like the last couple of times we've ended up talking about stand-up quite a bit.
I think it's just we have a mutual admiration for the craft. I know I'd be a terrible stand-up. I'm not. I don't have the speed.
You've
just got to be so lightning quick.
Yeah,
with wit.
You've got to be so resolute with the jokes that you do. And yeah, I know Anthony Jeselnik is one of my favorite comedians, and he always says that because he writes these jokes that are like really economical word wise. You know, like you write a joke that's 20 words. Now can you get the same effect out of 10? And you know, he's always trying to make it tight. But his thing is, if you come along to his show and you don't like it, it's not a crowd work set. It's not just a loose sort of improvised set. It's a movie. You came to see a movie, and if you don't like it, well, you know, walk out of the movie.
It doesn't deviate from this script.
Yeah, he's like, I wrote this set to be exactly like this, and if you don't like it,
there really are so many different schools of operation in stand-up. Like, you know, you go from something like that where it is so rehearsed down to the word, through to, you know, probably the opposite end of the spectrum is someone like Billy Connolly.
Oh yeah,
who, you know, will interrupt a story with another story and then come back to the other story.
Yeah, you end up
finish
like
that story off
3 layers deep into
but equally as brilliant.
Yeah,
you know, like I think the world of comedy, man, the day that man passes, the comedy world will just be so much.
It'll
so
be
much
like Robin
less,
Williams.
Yeah.
And
because I don't know another comedian who can swear as much as he does, but be beloved by just about any generation.
Yeah,
like my dad can handle as much swearing as he can dole out, but you put a show on where there's a lot of swearing in it, and he's like, oh, I can't handle this. It's just too much.
Yeah.
But Billy Connolly manages to do it in such a way that like endears you to him.
It's almost like sing-songy, the way that he'll go
yes.
off on there's a video, actually, there's like a 10-second cut together of him on some TV show, like a talking head TV show, and he's said fuck so many times that someone's cut it together in like a 10-second section, and we pass it around all the time when something's like someone's had a bad day, and it's just him going fuck, fuck, fuckity, fuck, 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 but it's all like yeah, and you realize you're like, oh, that's a 10-second section, but it might have only been like a 30-second clip that they cut all them out of. You know?
Amazing.
Have you got a tune, champ?
So I've kind of got a bunch of different tunes, really.
Do we need to get like write them all down and put them in like a lotto, like a bingo ball?
Almost, yeah, almost. There's been just so much release, and like, okay, the big thing is that this week is like coming up, I think, and I don't know if anyone else in the world like is aware of these things, but because it's part of my job to like keep track of when releases are coming out and stuff like that. This week coming. So for those of you who don't know, new music generally drops on a Friday. And so that's why you get like New Music Friday playlists on Spotify and all that sort of stuff. And this week in particular, this Friday, has to be like the biggest Friday in new music, for at least for heavy music anyway. I particularly follow heavy music.
Fuck all that other shit.
Yeah. But like this week there's like a Spirit Box album, Alien Weaponry, Thrice.
Yes.
Don Broco.
Yeah.
There's a new Sleep Token single coming out. There's a new Amity Affliction single coming out. There's a new ETID single coming out.
Yes.
It's just like this Friday coming is absolutely fucking bananas in terms of the amount. And that's not even the half of it. Like I know there's more.
Yeah.
That like they're just the ones that I'm like particularly interested in. So like last week, the Metallica Blacklist thing came out. It was like 53 different covers of songs just from the Black album.
Yeah. Yep.
And the week before that, the Iron Maiden album came out. So it was like number 2 on the charts last week. Metallica will probably chart this week. The week after that, 1 or 2 of those albums will be in the top 10, no doubt. So like at the moment, like heavy music is like really dominating and I just fucking love it. I'm so here for it.
Well, it was always bound to happen too, because especially like bands like Metallica and Iron Maiden and stuff, they've definitely like their core fan base that grew up with them, a lot of them have definitely grown up and moved on, like the original, like from when they started. But just in general, heavy music, I think like over the next 10 15 years it is completely inevitable that it's just going to keep rising, you know.
Well, this is the thing. So this is a question that often comes up and it's about like, you know, looking at the next generation of stadium fillers. Who is it out of, you know, so currently like the big 4 are all still around.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, I lie. Slayer is not around. Actually, was Slayer? Yeah, Slayer was one of the big 4. Yeah. So, like, they're not around anymore. But, you know, it's not like they're dead. They're just retired. But, you know, so who is it that's going to, you know, because Iron Maiden's not going to be around for that much longer. You know, Megadeth's probably not going to be around for that much longer. Metallica's probably got, you know, hopefully 10 to 15 years left in them. But, you know, eventually we're going to need, you know, you've got someone like Parkway Drive that's making headway into being something like that.
Yeah.
Who have you got?
Well, it's funny, right? Because I've had this conversation a lot with people when it came to like, you know, when Soundwave was on and Big Day Out was, you know, sort of on the way out. And it really was that thing where you start to get this vibe from people that they're like, these legacy bands aren't doing it for me anymore. I know they fill the stadium. I know that a festival like Soundwave, you know, was possible because you get those 3 big bands that are broad enough appeal, bring everyone in for the end of the night, and that's what lets the smaller bands, you know, get the opportunity to come and do something like that. Because without those big fillers and those big headliners, you can't have a venue that size and a festival that size. Yeah. But like, to be in, you know, the middle of the 2010s and there's still Pearl Jam and there's still fucking, you know, like Guns N' Roses and all those bands floating around and they're still doing these headline shows. It got to
Soundgarden at the time.
Yeah.
R.I.P. Linkin Park even.
Yeah. And like, not that they aren't great bands, but it does get to the point where you're like, okay, who are these headliners for? Because a lot of like Pearl Jam, Pearl Jam was before me. I could name a handful of Pearl Jam songs, but they're a band that's constantly on headlining slots. And it makes you wonder, like, when are we going to give that up and move on? Yeah. Because Foo Fighters, for me, in terms of worldwide appeal, Foo Fighters are one of the last bands that I could definitely say are a number 1 stadium band. Yep. And then I've heard people say like Black Keys and other bands, but but an Arcade Fire. Someone said that Arcade Fire was like one of the top paid bands for festivals in the world like a few years ago.
Not in Australia, man. There's no way they'd fill a stadium here.
And that's what's weird for me is like, I don't know.
They might do a river stage. They'd do a 10,000.
Yeah, but the way that
I can't see them doing Suncorp.
No, fuck no. No, they wouldn't fill that. And so it just always makes me wonder that where the music industry has gone with the way that people consume and purchase music and stuff now, and the fact that they don't really changes the the landscape for what a headline stadium band really looks like.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm confused about. I know Bring Me the Horizon do really well for themselves.
They're still not a stadium here though, man. Like their biggest show they had ever done to date was the River Stage.
Yeah.
Biggest headliner they'd ever was the River Stage here in Brisbane.
So
which is it was just over 9,000, I think.
Which is like a Parkway level sort of thing as well. So
yeah, before we move on from this, I had an interesting conversation last night about Pearl Jam.
Right. I find that hard to believe.
Yeah. With my nephew, right, who is 17.
Okay.
So we were talking about what his top 10 favourite songs would be.
Okay.
And of which Jeremy by Pearl Jam was his number one.
Okay.
And I was like, man, I got to get to the bottom of this. How the fuck and why? And it turns out it's everything to do with like that he plays guitar and he finds it really interesting. And in fact, I went ahead and played it and I was listening to it. The bass in that song is actually played on a 12-string bass guitar.
Right.
And man, once I'm listening to the bass in the intro of that song, it is wild. It is so different. It like you couldn't play that riff on a bass guitar and have it sound the same, like on just a regular old bass. And I really got an appreciation for the song. I listened to it and I was like, Jesus Christ, this is really good. Once I knew that about it and that it wasn't just a regular old bass guitar playing it, and it really sits right in the middle. It has like the fluidity of an acoustic guitar.
Okay,
but the tones of a bass. And it's really nice.
It's when a band can find an instrument that has a unique sound, right? So it's one thing to write a cool riff. It's another thing to have, like interesting production and stuff. But if you can find an instrument that really tonally stands out from other bands, that's like such a huge plus because there's a band called Cursive, right?
Yeah.
So they're like pretty small, sort of like, artcore band, if you will, sort of like a mix between, Panic and Brand New or something, they sort of had that weird kind of art rock thing going on.
Yeah.
They had an album they brought out called The Ugly Organ, which was a really seminal, infamous The Ugly Organ. And so basically it was a whole song just about, sex and just like, Panic had that really angsty sort of, it was all kind of wanting to talk about dicks without actually talking about dicks. And so The Ugly Organ, they actually had, I don't think they had bass. They might have had a bass guitar as well, but they definitely had a cello all throughout the album. And then when they toured the album, they toured it with the cellist. And it really makes a huge difference, that album. And all their other stuff, they only did on one album. The rest of the band's discography doesn't feel like the same band because they only had that for one album.
Yeah, right.
But it's a thing that you recognize instantly and like you would never expect to hear in another band. And so like with the 12-string like bass, definitely I imagine that's the thing that makes that song memorable.
Yeah, well now that's all I can hear. It's just like, wow, listen how warm and great that is.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it makes
But
a
anyway,
difference.
Back to stadium bands, and we should probably like move on a little bit and maybe move on to your tune.
Maybe.
So yeah, I mean, the last point that I wanted to make about that is like, there's probably a lot of bands from like 20 years ago or whatever that have potentially peaked and may never tip over it, like stuff like Korn and and Limp Bizkit and all of that sort of stuff. They still maintain a certain popularity, but they've kind of peaked. Like they're never going to tip over into like filling a stadium,
which is
here
funny
in Australia at least,
because there's the reverse is true for bands like the Eagles and Rolling Stones and stuff. They peaked so hard so early that they've managed to somehow make another 40 years worth of career out of the 2 albums that they brought out when they were big.
I put it to you, stuff like Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, that sort of stuff. That's just so broad appeal stuff that it's like a rolling stone that just keeps gathering. Yeah. It's a snowball.
Well, but that's what I mean.
It's like, it's the kind of stuff that you just like, you play for your kids and then kids grow up with it and then the next generation has it. And metal stuff is so niche to begin with.
Yeah, yeah.
Even metal people don't play metal to their kids all the time, you know?
But it's interesting though, because the bands that, like, using Rolling Stones as an example, they hit so hard, so big at a time where it was relevant to have a number one album out because people were actually buying it. You're actually making money out of it. You were actually going and doing tours, and it was a thing that was harder to access. But now with the internet and everything, it's so easy to get overwhelmed and flooded with music that everything feels a little less important.
Yeah.
And so this insane popularity that has got these bands to tour off
sustain them for 60 years,
20 songs for 60 years. Yeah, I feel like these heavy bands kind of already disadvantaged by the fact that they're playing a more niche style of music, but then even further disadvantaged by the fact that the music industry doesn't work the same way anymore.
Correct.
And so, yeah, I think they were never really, it would be extraordinary to get like to Metallica level stadium fame for most of these bands.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't think Metallica now, if no one knew who they were, could do that.
Potentially not. No.
You know. I mean, like Metallica in the 80s.
Yeah.
If that was now,
that was
if Metallica was in their 20s and they had all of the fucking the relevancy of their music and everything like right now, it still wouldn't matter. Periphery is
Would you
probably,
say nothing else matters?
Yes, I would say nothing else matters. Get that fucking look off your face. Fucking hell.
Oh, I love a good pun, son.
So
yeah, what's your tune?
Do you like Bill Murray?
I love Bill Murray. Are you serious?
Yeah.
As in, the band or the actor?
Yeah, the band.
Yes. I love the band as well.
So the band Bill Murray, spelt Bilmuri, is actually Johnny Frank, who used to be in Attack.
Oh, shit. I didn't know that.
Of crabcore fame.
That's why they had the song Thickly.
Yes.
As a piss take of Stickly.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense now.
Tim's learning things today.
I just thought it was a core reference, you know.
Well, that was the beauty of it, is that they had a song, not the song I'm going to talk about, but they had a song that was called My Feelings Have Feelings. And they did a video clip for it where it's just him now, very clearly like bed hair and like looking just completely tired and shitty. But he's got earphones in, and then he's filmed himself on a green screen so he cut his head out. Yeah. And so he's got all these old like MySpace core band like video clips and then superimposed his head over vocalists and guitarists and shit. But part of this stupid video clip that he's made, he's superimposed like his head over Stickly. Like it keeps coming back through, and when they get to like the middle of the breakdown for this thing, there's like a stop, and it's him with his head pasted onto his body in 2006 going crabcoring. Yeah, very cool.
Have you heard this? Have you seen the name of their new song?
Yeah, what's
Lord
it called?
Farquhardzilla.
Yeah. So I haven't listened to that yet.
All caps.
So I wanted to talk about that, but I haven't actually listened yet. But their last EP, they I love all their song names are like all in capitals with no spaces and stuff. But they had a song called Absolutely Cranking My Fucking Hog. And the guitar solo on that, like this band is the best.
I love that song so much.
It's the fucking best.
I played it endlessly on the Faction. Dude, I loved it.
It's so fat. Like The thing that I find interesting about this band is that he's managed to take like this kind of MySpace
that's
core,
fucked me up.
Like essence. He's got all that essence because he was in it and he was part of that scene and pretty instrumental in it. And he's put all that into this new music through Bill Murray, but he's also got this sort of electronic kind of borrows a bit from like new Bring Me the Horizon sort of stuff, but it all feels like a kid that grew up with the internet and wants to make more music for the grown-up internet. As in hey, we were all fucking 18 in 2000s. So now that we're in our fucking 30s, I'm going to write the music that is more like what you want to hear now, but with the flavor of the stuff that you liked when you were younger. And I don't give a fuck if anyone hears it. That's the vibe I get from this project, is he couldn't give he's not really marketing it, but because he understands the demographic so well, it's so easy for him to get it out there.
It really gives me similar vibes as Buried Alive.
Yeah. 100%.
There's actually a real thread of that sort of like we're serious musicians, but we're actually like we're taking the piss out of the stuff we love, but we're actually really good at our instruments as well. And you know, there's a whole like Bro Job and Eskimo Callboy and
Yep.
you know, Buried Alive and like even Don Broco to an extent.
Yep.
And like I quite like it.
There's also the label that he's on is Bacado Media, which is Jared. I'm probably going to say this wrong. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah.
Jared Alonge. I don't know. It's Alonge. I don't know how to say it.
Alonge?
Alonge. I think it's Alonge. But yeah, so
You just got to say it like a French person, and just like commit to it, and people will be like, "Oh,
yeah.
his name's Jared Alonge, Duck L'Orange."
And so his label, Bacado Media, is his YouTube channel, but then it's also bands like Bilmuri, and he's also got.
Is it kind of like the Swancore sort of?
It's a lot
stable of anything that Will Swan from Dance Gavin Dance works on.
Pretty much,
it's kind of like that.
Well, because he's got Blue Swan Records.
Yeah.
And so Bacado Media is sort of the similar sort of thing. And I think Jonathan Young does some stuff for them as well.
Yes.
And there's other bands I can't remember. But he also has Sunrise Skater Kids, which is like a parody pop punk band. And it's so well written. It's fantastic, like parody. And the songs are great. And they're all original songs.
It's the kind of thing like if you didn't actually listen to the lyrics, you'd be like, "This is a sick pop punk song."
Yeah,
and then you listen to it, and you're like,
"Oh, they're taking the piss out of being like depressed in your 30s and stuff." And yeah,
or like that whole trope about like pop punk songs all being about like sharing pizza with your friends and like hating your hometown, stuff like that.
Hey dudes, are you ready to? Yeah. But yeah, so Bill Murray, go check that shit out. Also just go and check out anything with the man Bill Murray in it because he's a fucking legend.
I back both,
and I hope he never dies. I'm pretty sure he's immortal.
Oh, I back both of those sentiments. I am so hanging to see Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Ooh, yeah.
My God, it's like all of the toys that have been released have confirmed that we will see Dan Aykroyd, Bill Murray, and I can never remember his name. Winston, the guy who plays Winston.
Oh, yeah.
And he's also in The Crow, and he's also in like a whole bunch of stuff. I can never remember his name.
Yeah.
And it's horribly racist of me. But anyway, the guy who plays Winston Zedmore. But we confirmed they will be in their Ghostbusters suits.
And probably a hologram of Harold Ramis.
I fucking hope so. Like, well, we know for a fact that the like it's his daughter and grandson and granddaughter that are the people that move out to the little town and take over. They take over the house that he lived in before he died.
Yeah, okay.
And so hence all of the ghostbusting gear is there.
Right. Yeah, because that movie was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah.
That's why I was confused. I'm like, oh, wait, is that the one that they teased like 2 years ago? And then,
have you seen all the trailers?
Happened? No, I mean, I've been staying away from it.
Oh, man, it looks so good.
Yeah. It'll be good. And it's got old mate from Stranger Things in it as well, right?
And Paul Rudd.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Finn Wolfhard.
Yep.
And Paul Rudd's in it as well.
Good old Paul Rudd.
The never aging Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Well, he definitely...
The Benjamin Button
He
Paul
definitely
Rudd.
Drinks baby blood. And I'm okay with it. I'm down with it.
Adrenochrome. You reckon he's...
Yeah.
He's drinking adrenochrome.
Yeah, you got to do something.
For all you conspiracy nuts out there. This YouTube channel will get flagged now.
Speaking of aging badly, I want to drop on you the fact that I've really fallen down the Nicolas Cage rabbit hole, and I really want to talk about National Treasure 2.
Why the second one?
Because
I will say outright, I've not seen 1 or 2.
Okay. I want to talk about the second one because if you look at the thumbnails for those two movies on Disney, the first one is like Nicolas Cage, not in his prime, but Nicolas Cage looking like a normal person. And then the second one is Nicolas Cage looking like there's a bird on his head. And I was like, does the hairline equal the quality of the movie? And it pretty much did.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. So
there's been talk of like digging that National Treasure franchise up and making it into a Disney Plus TV series with Nicolas Cage in it.
They're filming a movie.
Why?
Because
I suppose it was a kids' movie at a time where I wasn't a kid.
Yeah, because
it obviously has its fans.
Yeah, life is hell, and every day's a struggle. Yeah, that's why they're making National Treasure 3. No, the first one was good. I back it for what it was at the time. It was not what I expected because we watched them both back to back on the weekend. John Voight isn't a heartless.
Did you say John Voight?
Yeah, John Voight is his father in it.
Yeah, okay.
And isn't a heartless, cold, useless
Son
piece
of
of
a bitch.
shit. Yeah. Because I don't know, I've always associated John Voight with being just a plank of a man, and not really ever acting in anything. But like,
come on, man, Deliverance.
I haven't seen Deliverance, so
Deliverance is brutal.
Yeah.
But
I'm just thinking like Mission Impossible.
Mission Impossible 1. I was going to say, yeah, man, he copped a lot of heat for really for turning that character into a villain.
Yeah,
because that was the main character of the TV series.
Yeah.
And then they immediately turned it into the villain of the piece.
Yeah.
Man, they copped a lot of heat for that.
Yeah. He
Jim
too,
Phelps.
He too did cop a lot of heat as well, right at the end.
Yeah. Nice.
But yeah, so John Voight was in it, which was a surprise. Diane Kruger, who just totally is the best thing, the best reason to watch that movie.
About it, yeah.
Yeah, absolute fucking bombshell. And then I don't remember what his name was, but it's the guy that plays Doug in the Hangover movies. Is like the goofy tech sidekick.
Oh.
Yeah, and
right.
actually pulled it off. He actually got some chuckles out of me in the first one. Second one, not so much.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, do you know what National Treasure is about?
It's something to do with the Declaration of Independence, isn't it? They're looking for the...
That's actually what's under the... Like, if you read the trailer description, it's something to do with the Declaration of Independence. That's just the... That's the
Isn't it?
slogan
They're looking for the original... Because it actually has...
It's a treasure map.
Yeah.
And it's got invisible ink on it. Just like, you know invisible ink from when you were like 6? Yeah.
Run a lighter underneath it and it shows up.
Super fucking high-tech shit.
Jesus.
But who is the villain? Sean Bean was the villain.
Does he die?
No.
Oh, wow.
Also, Harvey Keitel was in this movie.
Harvey Keitel is
They got fucking Harvey Keitel. Yeah, and it's puzzling too because not that it's going to fucking spoil it for you. I'm sure you're not running out to watch it. Mr. Wolf.
Got Mr. Wolf.
Turns out to be one of the Knights of the Templar, who were the people that were guarding the treasure of fucking the founding fathers.
Wait, people in the Crusades.
Yeah. He's descendant of part of not like it wasn't like time travel shit.
Well, I was like, is this like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade where there's a knight of the Templar waiting in the tomb, in the cave?
Yes and no.
Right.
Let me just say this. National Treasure, obviously they want to be Indiana Jones. It's totally obvious. Yeah. But what they end up being is Indiana Jones if he just was running around in just regular American towns. Like I really thought
there's no exotic things to it.
This is going to be them, like going and doing crazy shit and discovering stuff. And really what it is they run around and they look in desks and shit.
What do they call where the four faces of the presidents?
Mount Rushmore. That's the second one. They only
I was going to say surely Mount Rushmore plays a part.
Yeah.
Like it's just too obvious.
The problem with both of those movies was that they really do dwell too much on the running around cities and finding clues around cities because obviously it's all to do with American history.
Yeah.
And so it's not like going into jungles and exploring fucking Aztec ruins and shit. So that was where it got let down because 2/3 of the way into the first movie, like you still haven't really gone anywhere other than like churches and like old, you know, political buildings and stuff like that. And then right at the end, they find like the crypt where all of this like world treasure that the founding fathers had been protecting as part of the Knights of the Templar Freemasons, sort of like it's all, yeah, it's very confusing.
Right.
But no more confusing than having a movie where Sean Bean doesn't die.
I really reckon Sean Bean cops a pretty hard rap. He's a really good actor, and there's a show that he's in at the moment that I haven't seen, but it's called Time.
Okay,
he's a prisoner, and he's getting a lot of like real props at the moment for carrying that show pretty heavily, and I think finally he's starting to get the props he deserves, I think.
I disagree. I think he's always got the props he deserves.
You
but
reckon?
The fact that he dies in like 98% of the movies that he's in turn him into a meme, and people forget that he's a really good actor. But he is a genuinely good actor. Yeah. He's just been in...
He kind of elevates pretty much everything he's in, man. Like, he was fantastic in GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Like, it was a real shame when he was the one who died in, you know, Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
I
mean, you haven't seen Game of Thrones, but that first season...
I have actually seen the first season.
You have
I've seen 12 episodes of the first season.
Yeah.
Enough to see him die.
Yep.
And I was like, this is the whole reason I was watching this show.
Yeah, but that once again, the subversiveness of... what they did was a really good... I think they did a really good job of handling that, or like George Martin did a really good job of taking that character that you love so much and killing him really early on and setting the precedent of nothing is sacred. And Sean Bean was the perfect guy for that, not just because he's really good at dying,
because he's the guy who dies,
but more so because he didn't play someone who you expected to die, because his whole character was very like middle of the road. Like he was trying to sort of be on both sides and please everyone. And he wasn't someone that was going out of their way or like doing any crazy shit that would put him in the line of fire. You know? Yes, kind of a little bit, but yeah.
I had another similar thing happen with The Walking Dead, where when John Bernthal's character died, like early on in the second season or late in the first, I think. And I just remember going like, this show's going to lose a lot now.
Yeah.
Because there was just always such tension, because he was like now banging Rick's ex-missus.
Yeah.
And there was always that like, whose baby is his missus pregnant with.
Yeah.
There was always that tension. And like, when Rick came back, everyone was like, oh, who's she going to be with now? And
yeah,
like that was a really good tension. That was a really good like thing to hold. And then it just got solved, and everyone kind of became really like, oh, this is a bit uninteresting now.
Well, where do you draw the line with tension, right? Because I use The Office as an example. I don't know if you've seen The American Office.
Oh, enough of it, yeah.
Yeah, so like it takes them 3 seasons for Jim and Pam to finally sort of get together, and then after that, the show's still good, but like that's the palpable, like you're racing through these episodes because you want to find out what happens. But they could only hold it for so long, because if they held that for the whole show...
Do you know what, though? Sometimes you get them together and the show sucks as a result.
Definitely.
Lois and Clark, The New Adventures of Superman, back in the early 90s.
Yeah.
The sexual tension between Dean Cain and Terry Hatcher was so good.
Yeah.
It sustained the entire show.
Yeah.
As that whole would they, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
And then they did, and the whole thing just sucked.
Yeah.
And it ended so fast. Where they even tried to do this thing where they tried to play off that the Lois that he was like in love with was actually a clone that had been like swapped out, and they tried to like reset the whole, no.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely ups and downsides of it, but I think for me personally, I think Lost is a really good example of a show that was trying to hold tension.
Kate and what's Matthew?
Probably Jack. Probably.
Jack
I mean,
Kate,
it's always all the heroes are called Jack.
Jack, Kate, and Sawyer was the sort of like,
yeah.
Well, who will she choose? And I put it to you that those three there, Jack, Kate, and Sawyer, is literally the same threesome tension of Cyclops, Jean Grey, Wolverine.
Right.
Look at it, man.
It's the same.
It literally
shit.
is. It's like you got a woman in the middle.
Yeah.
I've got like the good leader hero type that I should probably like go with.
Nobleman.
And then there's the bad boy over there that like is insanely sexy, but I know is dangerous.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
It's exactly the same.
And it's such a useful trope to have for sure.
It is.
But I don't even mean like with the relationships. I mean like I didn't watch all of Lost, but everyone that I've talked to about Lost, because there's the people that are the diehard fans of it, but they can still talk about it and be like, you know, they missed so many marks because they were writing on the fly.
Yeah.
But when you set up a storyline that you don't pay off for seasons and seasons, and then it gets to the point where so much other stuff has happened that the payoff doesn't really work anymore, or it doesn't feel right.
They
or whatever.
painted themselves into a corner, that show.
That's what I worry about with shows that hold tension for too long. Is you paint yourself into a corner where people start to go, well, I don't really even care anymore, because whatever payoff they give, it's like Game of Thrones. Whatever payoff they give me, it's never going to be satisfying now. They've built this thing up so much. They've edged me the whole fucking time and then just totally gave up at the last two strokes. Is that a little bit TMI?
No, I don't care. Do you know how they solved the Wolverine Cyclops Jean Grey thing?
No.
They didn't necessarily talk about it explicitly in the comic, but there was an issue that got released. The X-Men moved their base to the moon, and they had like a base on the moon. And in the back of one of the issues, there was a fold-out thing, and there was a blueprint of the base.
Okay.
And like showed you everyone's rooms and where they lived and their quarters and all that sort of stuff. Jean Grey's room was there, and Cyclops' room was there, Wolverine's room was there, either side of them, and they just had like adjoining doors.
Right.
Yeah. And it was just sort of like confirmed, like they have an open relationship, and Jean just has who she wants.
Yeah, that's fair. Yep. Just run the train all the way through. Yeah, every station.
Yeah. So there's one way of it's probably a non-traditional way of solving it, but I can't see that happening on Lost with Jack and Sawyer.
I guess that's one way of being like, well, it's kind of not a payoff, but also we didn't get it wrong. We can't get it wrong. Now it's always open forever. Yeah. Speaking of fucking with timelines and resetting things and making changes, let's talk about Shang-Chi.
Oh yeah, cool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we went into this about like, unfortunately, you know, your missus had a car accident and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah. And
resulted in you feeling pretty bummed out there for a little while. And I completely understand.
It was a very busy time. And so I kind of fell off the radar. By the time this comes out, we'll have already released another one since then. But yeah, we've had a bit of a hiatus because just, man, life gets
Shit's
in the way.
been real.
Yeah. Yep.
And so unfortunately that meant that you didn't accompany me along to the premiere of Shang-Chi.
Yeah.
So I went along solo to that one. But it was a good time. It was a bit of a weird one because it was like it was at the start of the period of time where like the COVID cases in like Sydney and Victoria, and so New South Wales and Victoria really starting to kick off. Yeah. And so everyone was like, they even made me keep my mask on getting my photo taken at the media wall.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Like they were very, very like,
staple it to your face.
Yeah, like don't take it off. Like they really distanced us like away from everyone else. Like we were in like the biggest like VMAX cinema that like the Maya Center has, and we were like, there must have been a person like 3 rows in front of me and 3 behind me.
Yeah, and
no one in my row with me. And then there was like everyone was like super distanced, so it was a bit weird going in. But it was really cool to see. It was a really good flick. And like it was just really, man, I really loved that Are you also of the mind of like with foreign language films? Are you subs better than dubs?
Yeah. I'd much prefer subs.
Exactly, right. So I like when I saw like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon at the cinema. I saw it down here. I came down for the holidays. I saw that at the cinema here. I saw it at like Dendy.
Yeah.
And so I saw the original subtitled version.
Yep.
And they do that. There's a lot of speaking in Chinese or in Mandarin in this movie. There's a ton of it. They don't like where it is appropriate that they like if they're in China, everyone speaks Chinese.
Okay.
Like I loved it. It's for like,
which is a huge irony because I've seen a lot of like there's a good chance that it might not hit the Chinese market.
That's probably more to do with business than anything, I would say. Not to do with the
No, I just mean like that they've done that, but then because of the
various backlash and yeah. So like to me, it seemed like really super respectful of that and you know supportive of you know the culture that is at the heart of the movie, and man, just the martial arts in this film is treated so well and so respectfully. Like they are lightning fast, and then in other parts they are just treated like a ballet. Like there are literally scenes where Wen Wu, who is the Mandarin, when he meets the woman who is the mother of Shang-Chi, like they fight each other, but it's like it's a dance of seduction as well.
Okay.
Like he comes to like there's this mystic land, Ta Lo, and it's really hard to get to. And so when you get there, it's actually like kind of stepping through a portal into another universe. It's not on Earth, Ta Lo. And so he meets this woman and they sort of fight, and then they fall in love, and then he brings her back to Earth, and she gives up all of her powers to be with him and all that sort of stuff.
Okay.
But their children are obviously like Shang-Chi inherits the powers, and his sister like is never taught anything, but she mirrors everything and learns everything while she goes and all that sort of stuff. And man, it's really, really cool. The big criticism I've seen online is like people really are hanging shit on the big final battle, which is like it's a big CGI fest. So
Black Panther style, like
sort of. It goes probably even more fantastical than that.
Yeah.
There are literally two massive dragons.
Okay.
And Shang-Chi is like riding one of them, and it's do you know what it's like? It's kind of Black Panther meets Aquaman. Have you seen the Aquaman movie?
I haven't seen the Aquaman movie, but I've seen a lot of clips, and I definitely get what you mean.
The end of the Aquaman movie is just batshit insane. There's people riding whales into battle and riding like massive sharks, and you know there's a kraken, and there's a like it's insane. Yeah, absolutely insane, right? And it's kind of like the closest thing in the Marvel universe is probably Black Panther. In terms of like sort of story beats. Yeah. And then it's kind of like a big mash of like Rush Hour meets, meets Black Panther, meets Aquaman, meets, Ant-Man, to be honest. Because like the Ant-Man side of it is like kind of the humor. There's a good amount of humor that's weaved in as well. Like you get Ronnie, he's an Australian Chinese actor, Ronnie Chiang. He's a stand-up.
Oh yeah,
he's in it.
Yep.
Aquafina, she's in it. She provides some good humor as well. But a lot of the humor actually comes from, and I don't know if this is a spoiler for you or not, but it's been out for a while now. I'm going to spoiler alert the shit out of this. So if you don't, So Trevor Slattery from Ben Kingsley's character from Iron Man 3.
Yep.
He so at the end of that movie, he gets put into prison. There's then the All Hail the King short film that came out where the real 10 Rings people come for him and kidnap him out of prison. At one point in the movie, Shang-Chi, Awkwafina, and his sister, I think, are put into like Wenwu's like prison.
Yep.
And they're like, there's some noise going on down a hallway. They're like, what? They go down there and it's like Trevor Slattery is like being held hostage there and he's being kept as like a court jester because they all just think he's an idiot. And but he's really taking it quite seriously. He's like, it's an acting job for him. He treats it like he's an acting, like it's a... He's down there. He's got in his little cave, he's got like a mirror there with the lights all around it.
That's great.
And honestly, he brings so much humor. And when they finally go to Ta-Lo, there's all these like fantastical sort of... Did you see the like Kong vs. Godzilla movie?
I haven't seen Kong vs. Godzilla, but I've definitely seen like Skull Island and stuff. And
so you know how they talk about the Hollow Earth thing?
Yes.
So Ta-Lo is kind of like the Hollow Earth.
Okay.
Except it's not like upside down. You know how they do that whole...
Yeah.
It's not like that. So it's kind of like Ta-Lo, right? In that, like, there's all these like really fantastic... They're kind of like mashups of beasts we have here on Earth.
Yeah.
So there's, you know, like there's horses with wings and, you know, like bits and pieces like that.
Pegasi, if you will.
Yeah. But then there's like this little character. It's just like a little faceless four-legged thing, like hairy thing with wings that Trevor Slattery befriends. And he just calls him Morris.
Yeah, okay.
And so a lot of the humor from there on out is like Trevor Slattery and Morris like having a good time. Like,
yeah.
So at the end, there's a shot where it looks like Trevor participates in the big final battle, and there's a shot where it looks like Trevor's not made it.
Okay.
And he's there, he's lying on the grass. He looks very much dead. And then Morris is next to him. Shh, mate, they'll hear us. Like, I'm just acting. Like,
I love that how these movies, they always seem to get the sidekick thing right.
Yeah.
You know, like I know like Rocket the Raccoon isn't really necessarily a sidekick. He's like a main character. But
because
like
you could very, very easily Jar Jar Binks the shit out of something.
Fucking oath.
Yeah.
You can fuck it up real bad.
Yeah.
But or it was like the Force Awakens, and they have like the little the things from the island, little penguin looking things that they have.
Wrong movie, but okay.
Was it? Is the
That's
next
Last
one?
Jedi.
Yeah, I mean, look, to be honest,
they're also called Porgs.
Porgs. I watched those movies one at a time, once only, never went back. Sorry, man. They didn't have the rewatch value for me.
You'll pay it the respect that it's due.
I did just then. Sorry, man. I don't know. They just weren't really rewatchable for me. But I do remember the fact that perfect merchandising opportunity. I wonder whether I wonder whether Morris will get his own little.
Oh, without doubt.
Yeah.
Morris is like the breakout star from this movie.
Right. Yeah.
Like merchandising heaven. Like
gonna go through the
if
roof.
it doesn't have a plushie by Christmas time, they've missed it.
Well, it's funny what you say too about the CGI fest thing, because I haven't seen Aquaman, but
I didn't find it that bad, but I can see why people have a problem with it.
Yeah. Well, I urge anyone that loves watching these kind of movies and watches a lot of CGI movies, before you judge a movie that maybe has like overused CGI or have used it and it's done badly, go and watch, there's a channel called Corridor Crew. So the guys from Corridor Digital, they break down special effects. They also break down stunts and stuff. So they got a series called VFX Artists React, but then they also have an offshoot of that is Stuntmen React, and they get in stuntmen from Marvel movies and stuff to react to...
Sorry, point of interest, at the premiere screening that I went to, because a lot of it was shot in Sydney, one of the stuntmen was there at the premiere, and I was standing behind him in the line, and he was wearing the like official like jacket.
Wow.
Yeah, it was boss too.
Yeah?
It was a real boss jacket.
Man.
He felt pretty good about himself, that guy.
Yeah, I'll bet he did.
He was pretty stoked. And I was standing there, I was like just kind of listening in. He had this like insanely hot missus that was with him.
Yeah.
And he was like, he was looking at the big media wall and looking at the poster of Shang-Chi and Wenwu. And he was like, oh, it's so weird seeing him on a poster. Because he would have just been so used to like working with him and probably, you know, on a one-on-one thing. It was, you know, it would be a bit weird because you kind of like get to know the person.
Yeah.
And then you see the character on the poster. You know, like
it must just be weird in general, especially for people that have ended up in movies that weren't big actors before, end up in like a huge movie all of a sudden and their face is everywhere.
Speaking of, so I'm going to carve this up.
Yeah.
Simu Liu, or however you say his name. I don't know if you've seen in the last week or so, but people have found that he used to be a stock photo model.
I have seen that getting
around. And like he put out a thing like on, guys, remember this, if you're an actor and you're taking a job because you need the cash, I got $100 for these and they own them forever.
Yeah, yep.
These are now, and he said,
not worth it.
Were not worth it. And he's like, the only thing I can do now is kind of reclaim them by using them as memes myself.
Yeah.
And so I depower them by taking the piss out of them. You can't use them against me now. Yeah. So there's like one where it's like he's sitting at a computer and like there's a person either side of him and they're like pointing at something on a computer screen and they look like they're celebrating. And he's like, you know, me pointing out my like 94% on like Rotten Tomatoes or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's kind of depowering that now.
The stock footage ones, though, they aren't that bad as well. Like, it'd be different if he did, like, a really terrible ad or something. Like, I don't...
every actor's got one of those horrific ads in their past, man.
Well, someone brought up a movie the other day. I won't be able to remember what it was, but it basically had a lot of actors that are big now. So it had Evan Peters. It's Evan Peters that did Quicksilver.
Yep.
So he was in, like, a Disney Channel movie, I think, called Sleepover. And it was him in it. And there was also Steve Carell played like a campus cop or something, and he was basically playing like Paul Blart. But he did so well. Like what he did in that movie,
he committed.
Yeah, he committed to it, and so like he's done a really good job of being in it. But like you look back and like, wow, what a terrible movie that was. But that was back before he was who he was. You know, he was just doing what he could get his hands on.
Who was I watching a thing about this very thing? They brought up the actor's like very first movie and they were like, do you regret that now? I was like, no, man, I had a ball making that movie.
It's like Ryan Reynolds, like just absolutely, he makes bank off how bad Green Lantern was. Like a part of his brand.
That's different, man. He was a well-established actor by that point.
But yeah, he was.
That wasn't one of his first things he took.
Not that it was one of his first things by any stretch, but what I mean is like he's got that in his back catalogue of things that everyone was like, that was so terrible. But part of his brand now is how terrible that movie was and ripping on it. And once again, taking the power out of people being like, you were in this shitty movie. He's like, yeah, I know I was. And every time I bring it up, it gets me more views. Yeah, so fuck you guys.
Yeah.
What I was going to say about with CGI Fest stuff, Corridor Digital, when they do their Corridor like VFX artists react, something they bring up a lot is like the power of like choreography and stuff. So when they do the stuntmen stuff, they talk about, you know, using choreography as telling a story and making sure that, you know, you get the full effect of every time someone gets hit. If you make, you know, too many cuts, you can really take the power out of what's actually happening.
The believability.
And really destroy, like, Wolf of Wall Street. Jonah Hill took an actual punch from John Bernthal because John Bernthal was like, let's do this for real. It's not looking right on camera. Let's do this for real. I'll let you beat the shit out of me later. I don't give a shit. But we've got to sell this shot. We're on a Marty Scorsese movie.
Yeah.
Let's fucking sell this shot. And Jonah Hill's like, no, I'm not about it. Not about it. He eventually got talked into it. And then in the cut of it, they cut before he connects and then cut to another shot of him falling. So he actually took the punch,
but they didn't show it.
They didn't show it connect.
Oh, man.
That got fucked over in the edit.
That would really suck to be Jonah Hill.
Yeah.
Because there's definitely some cred in taking a punch from John Bernthal.
Yep.
And you didn't even get to see it.
And you don't even get to see him actually take it. And so, like, you see the hand go out, and then you see him fall.
Jonah Hill.
Yeah, yeah.
I respect you for taking that punch.
You absolute king. Fucking king.
Absolutely. What a lord, though. Like, is an inspiration to, like, fat lads everywhere.
Well,
I respect that, like, you know, he's done the thing where he's lost weight, he's put it back on, he's lost weight, put it back on.
Yeah.
He's used it, you know, for his own humor over the years. He's a genuinely versatile actor. Like, once you get past the whole Superbad trope that he was for a little while.
Well, another movie, right, that is like in an actor's past that, you know, had a potential to kind of fuck up their future, and he's just pushed past it, you know.
But that movie's actually, like, I put it to you that Superbad is Napoleon Dynamite to Jonah Hill, like that.
Yeah, but look at American Pie and what that did to Sean William Scott. Typecast forever as Stifler. Yeah?
Yeah.
So he could have been typecast forever as, like, fucking, you know, just awkward.
He wouldn't have got anything else after that if he wasn't Stifler. There's no way Sean William Scott would be there's no way we'd be talking about him if he didn't do Stifler.
But it's definitely that. I mean, Michael Cera as well, right? Like, Michael Cera has kind of always had to play Michael Cera since he, you know, like he's...
Which came first? Superbad was definitely after...
Arrested Development.
No. Oh, no, man. Yeah, actually... No, a lot of these actors actually owe a lot to Freaks and Geeks.
Yeah,
that was the start.
Rogan, Franco, Cardinelli, I think her name is. Yeah,
Linda.
However you say her last name, I don't remember. But anyway, I do want to finish the point I was making about CGI.
Sorry, man.
Aquaman was an example they used of a movie that took CGI to, and Justice League as well, took CGI a little bit past the point of reasonable, in the sense that you can make the effects overblown and crazy and visually fantastic, but the camera movement is what really takes people out of it. And when you
put things underwater too, it makes it a little harder as well.
But there was a scene they showed where they were running across, like, rooftops.
Oh, yeah.
And the camera moves aren't logical things a physical camera could do, and so because they're doing a digital camera movement where they're saying, like, this person has jumped out of this rooftop, and the camera is basically floating around past them and then following behind them or whatever. Yeah. It's not a thing that a normal camera would do. Wouldn't a lot of those be
practical camera moves though? They did those things on location.
Some of them, but if it's all green screen, right, you could, you know, well, some of that shit on location as well. But a lot of the problems where CGI falls down is if you've got someone who's, I don't know, flying on green screen, right? One, they're not grounded for a start. So anyone that's fighting where it's like Superman fighting in the air and punching people around, it lacks all of the weight and the stakes of an on-ground fight. But also, if your camera is moving around on green screen environment and it's sort of moving through things it shouldn't be and stuff, and, you know, like...
Isn't that what... I mean, couldn't you explain that by using a drone? Wouldn't that be a lot of it?
Some of it, but then there's some things where, like, dead set, they just go straight through walls on some stuff, right? Yeah. You know, where there's something happening outside and then the camera pans across through a wall to another thing. It's not that any of it is completely impossible, but what it does is it takes the punch away, and it tricks your brain. Not even tricks your brain, it distracts your brain because it's not seeing something that it could believe in terms of movement. And so then the CGI loses its punch. The thing that I was hoping for with Shang-Chi was that they lent more into the martial arts side of things. I will say
85% of the movie definitely does that.
Okay, yeah.
Absolutely does that.
Yeah.
And then the last 10 to 15% is that bit. But I also put it to you with something like that, like, if they ended it any other way, people walk out and be like, well, that was an anticlimax.
Yeah, definitely.
They'd be like, well, what?
There's a standard set in the MCU that they, you know, if they didn't give them the big CGI thing at the end, then maybe it would have been like, well, hang on, why are they trying to downplay this movie?
Yeah, they should have made it a Disney Plus TV series if they weren't going to put any budget into it.
Yeah.
You know, like, there'd always be some bullshit that someone would have a problem with.
Yet another thing I've learned from Corridor Crew, it's like half the time if you see a bad CGI effect or a scene that looks like the CGI is done badly, there's a chance that it might have just not been pulled off right, or it's probably the budget constraint. They work on like dollars per second, right? And so if you've got, you know, $500 per second, you're going to get a shitty CGI shot. But if you've got $10,000 per second, you're going to get a fucking MCU level movie.
Have you watched any of the? And you possibly haven't. You probably haven't. Have you watched the like behind the scenes things on Disney Plus around the Mandalorian?
No, I haven't.
There's two making of series about series 1 and series 2 of Mandalorian. Do you know all about the volume and everything, how they make that show?
The volume?
Yeah. So they created an entirely new way of...
Oh, you mean the screen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
filming in front of Unreal Engine.
Yeah. So it's essentially like a football field oval size, like LED screen with roof on as well, with LED screens on there. And they just project whatever background they want onto it. And like in 2 entire series, there's only one scene they've shot outside on location.
Yeah.
Like the entire, like, and that was the fight with Boba Fett and all the stormtroopers out on the mountain.
Yeah.
You've seen?
Yeah, I've seen it all. Yeah.
So like that's the only on location thing they've done.
Because they would actually have to do that to get all the proportions of shit right. And
correct. Yeah.
But all the other stuff, like
perspective.
Even like the town shots and stuff, that you'll obviously be able to do all of that because it, you know,
like they build half a set.
Yeah,
and then they
put all that stuff in the foreground, and then the background is all
brilliant.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, like that has to be the future of making.
Oh, there's definitely plenty of other.
My God, the budget would just be slash location.
I believe the first movie that, well, maybe not the first movie, but the earliest time I remember a movie using that was Oblivion with Tom Cruise.
Oh,
a lot of Oblivion was shot like that.
Amazing! What a flick!
Yeah, very, very good.
What a flick! Oh my God!
Yeah,
I started watching that, going like, "What a concept!"
There was a lot of stuff that was on location, like that fucking motorbike crash that he had, because he just can't stop doing stunts where he fucks himself up. Tom Cruise, stop trying to murder yourself. Although it's fun to watch, so keep trying to murder yourself.
I'm pissed off. They've pushed back Top Gun.
They pushed it back,
and Mission Impossible 7.
Is there a reason other than COVID that they've done it?
COVID.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's all right. We can watch them in 10 years' time when the new James Bond movie comes out.
No, that's it's coming out in November now. Like,
really?
Yep. They've locked it in. They're doing it.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Yeah, no. I know what you're saying, but they've locked it in.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, well, that'd be fucking good because, like, I'm overdue for a little bit of Craig Train.
I watched there's a documentary that got made and it's on Apple TV. It's about Daniel Craig's tenure as Bond.
Yeah.
It's just called Being James Bond.
I haven't seen it, but I want to catch it.
It's a weird one because essentially all it is, it's like an audio podcast that they've kind of put footage to.
It's a glorified YouTube video?
Yeah, but it's 2 hours long.
Yeah.
So like it's like they did an audio podcast and were like, you know, if we've got the license, we could just put whatever footage we want with this. And there's no footage of them talking about it.
Yeah.
It's just all audio.
And how fucking hard would that have been? How fucking hard would that have been? We're doing it right now and it costs nothing.
Yeah.
Just set up a fucking GoPro in the room, you motherfuckers.
And yeah, and then like, so they just put footage over the top of, you know, like most of it's just footage from the movies.
Yeah.
And then there's just like little bits of footage from like premieres and press junkets and stuff like that. It's odd.
It's a YouTube video essay, but it's feature length.
Essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and officially licensed.
Very strange.
I mean, it is. It's weird.
Shout out Mr. Sunday Movies. I watch a lot of Caravan of Garbage, and they've got like their guy that Ben from Canada that does all their editing and puts a lot of like really cool gags in when he cuts the footage in. And, you know, like I really love that shit. So I don't know whether they've really... Have they utilized the footage that they've put over it for effect, or is it kind of just like they've got a reel going?
No, I mean, they try and marry it up with what exactly they're talking about. So, like, I don't know if you remember back to like 2005, 2006 when Casino Royale came out, but like obviously coming off the back of Pierce Brosnan giving up the role, and you know obviously the big press junket to have at the time was like announcing who the next Bond. I'm pretty certain what they were doing was like announcing who the next Bond will be and the title of the next film, right?
Yeah.
And so they did this big press conference where it was like, we'll reveal who the next actor is to play James Bond, and the Royal Navy will bring him in along the Thames and pull up at the Millennium Dome.
Yeah, I remember that.
And the Navy being the Navy were like, regulations, man, you got to wear a fucking life jacket.
Yeah.
So he's wearing a life jacket as they pull up in this like speedboat. They came in at high speed.
Yeah.
The whole thing, it was like meant to be this like sort of adrenaline pumping James Bond is here, you know. And he's wearing a life jacket and the media was just like, oh, he's a pussy.
Yeah.
He's wearing a life jacket.
Yeah.
And he's blonde. This sucks.
Yeah.
And like they just roasted him from the get-go, and they were, like, hadn't even seen a frame of film that he had shot yet.
Yeah.
And then it took until paparazzi got shots of that scene where he stands up in the water in those blue trunks and walks out and show his physique and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And that was the moment where the paparazzi turned and went like, holy shit, like this guy got jacked.
Yeah, it's basically the new fucking Sean Connery, because like the thing was...
they even showed pictures of like Bond's never looked like this.
Yeah. But it was more the fact that they took like the trope of the bikini girl walking out, turned it on its head, but then also they like Daniel Craig in that scene, obviously more jacked than Sean Connery, but was probably the only other Bond that could kind of have the same swagger that Sean Connery had, because like Pierce Brosnan was a great Bond, I think, but like he couldn't have done the same
couple
scene.
Of duds at the end of the run, but
but I don't think he could have done the same scene convincingly.
No,
you know,
No. Speaking of like, you know, like Daniel Craig being in the like physique that he was in, but Sean Connery never looked like that. Ironically, Sean Connery won like Mr. Universe or something like that back in the day.
Standards were very different.
That's right. That's exactly right. And I'm just imagining Sean Connery going like, yes, I don't see your Mr. Universe anywhere.
Universe.
You know, but yeah, like you say, standards so different.
The standards of a leading man were to be kind of dad bod, like fucking...
Or even just like real barrel chested too. Yeah. Super barrel chested.
Yeah.
Which is just like...
And then along comes the 80s and fucking just...
Arnold.
Yeah, we got Arnold. We got fucking
Sly.
Stallone. You know, there's just everyone's out there just...
Dolph Lundgren as He-Man.
Holy
just
fuck.
Absolutely just oiled up and like...
I will leave you with one more thing, because we are going to have to wrap up. But you say He-Man, and I found the perfect thing, and you're going to fucking love this show.
Yes,
it's called Son of Zorn.
Zorn.
You
I've
watched
seen
it?
Yeah.
How fucking good is Son of Zorn?
He just does not understand. He's like, why is my son like not want to be like, I'm awesome? Why wouldn't you want to be like me?
Yeah,
like,
was it a Longinus or whatever? But yeah, if you haven't checked out Son of Zorn, I think is it on...
Imagine He-Man has is
it on
an
Disney
Earth
or
son.
Prime? I think it's on Disney.
I think it's on Disney too.
Yeah.
Has a son on Earth who's decided he's like wants nothing to do with like being a barbarian,
but it's
being awesome.
It's Roger Rabbit, but with He-Man essentially, because it's like Zorn being the cartoon character that's like in a cartoon
live
character
action world
inserted into real life, and it's never addressed, and it's just it's not like a weird thing at all. Because I don't think Jason Sudeikis could ever really live up to playing that. He's the voice. I don't think he could be the...
Oh, is it Jason Sudeikis?
Yeah, it is.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, it's been... Look, I'm glad we're back.
We are back.
I'm glad because I've missed it, Dougie.
Yeah. Well, so the way this is going to work is we're going to release the last episode we recorded. We never got to release. It's going to come out, and everyone's
So we're
going to
back
be
on
like,
track. We're one ahead of it.
everyone's going to be like, well, where the fuck have you guys been?
I got
And
a
then
phone
they're going to
call
have to
from
wait
Truck.
an episode. Yeah, me
Where's
too.
my podcast, motherfucker?
That's exactly what I got as well. I was like, hey, man, how you going? He's like, good. Where's my podcast, motherfucker? And I'm like, well, okay.
Well, good to know someone's actually like wanting to hear from us.
Well, he was on a road trip, I think, and I think he
was.
was ready for a binge, and we had no binge available for him.
Sorry, bud.
So sorry. Well, I might even release a double this week if I get the time. I might just double end. Yeah. Goodbye.